What's up? It's the Big Rapids Media Sports Network, and we got some cool stuff in store for you today. We have our hosts and play-by-play announcers here with us, along as with our other sports guru. Go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
JT Scarpelli, I'll be doing the Big Rapids games once again on Big Country 100.9. And then I'm also the high school baseball coach.
I'm Brandon Worth. I'll be calling Reed City Coyote football on Y102 this fall. A former Coyote alum. Can't wait to be back in the saddle on home grounds again.
I'm Joe Nagy. I'll be doing kind of the quarter updates here for WBRN, as well as I kind of do the afternoon show as well here on Big Country.
And I am Etch, the morning show host on Big Country 100.9 for Mornings with Etch. So I'm going to host this whole thing. We're going to do a weekly rundown. That's what it's called, the rundown of all things CSA Gold Conference football. And let's kind of kick things off with the overview of the CSA Gold Conference. What do you think is the most exciting part of the season so far?
Brandon, why don't you kind of did a really good breakdown of the strength of schedule and stuff. There's some key matchups that every team is going to have, but I think you did a pretty good job of breaking some of the stuff down. So why don't you lead us out?
Yeah, when you look at the gold, especially in consideration of strength and schedule, which I was able to calculate based off going from last year's results and obviously seeing what teams finished last year, taking that playoff pointage total per each team and putting it in that other team's schedule that they're playing for their 9 regular season opponents. You can kind of see and line up where some teams have a little bit of an easier road and some teams have a little bit of a harder road. And Reed City, obviously, with a team that has been in the state playoff contention each and every year, they always love to make it tough on the kids right out of the gate, and they certainly will with Kingsley, as well as finishing the season with Cadillac. They got the toughest strength of schedule this year, 37.1 average playoff points, followed by Grant and Newaygo, both teams looking to turn it around right away. Tri-County, Chippewa Hills, Central Montcalm right in there, right around the 34 to 32 range. And Big Rapids is actually at the bottom. It looks like Coach Seltzer's really looking for some wins there on the record this year.
Yeah, I think a big part of that for Big Rapids is, so Papa's in a little bit of a tough conference who they open up against. So they hover around a 500, slightly above 500 team. But there is a strategic reason why he chose that team, which we'll get into. But he's also got Morley Stanwood, which if you take last year, they didn't win a game. That's a knock. Alma had a real bad year last year, too. He loves having them in the final week of the regular season. So I can see those two games by themselves really affecting their strength of schedule.
So, Joe, what are you thinking as far as the CSA Gold Conference goes?
If you look at it from last year, it was kind of pretty tight race early, but then obviously Reed City kind of pulled away. I think you're going to see a pretty tight race as well again, because Tri-County, if you look at them, they've lost a lot of their solid pieces. Stuart Gold and Trent Barenwald are two guys who accounted for, I think it was 44 touchdowns between the two of them. That's going to be a lot of scoring that Coach Butler and that Viking offense is going to have to come up with. However, they got their whole O-line returning. Big Rapids, especially, like you guys said, with the kind of a little bit less of a strength of schedule, they're going to try to get that confidence up early. And Reed City as well. We've just seen them be able to dominate this conference continuously, and especially with the systems they have in place. I think you're going to see a tight race between the three of them, and maybe you'll see one of the three kind of pull away near the end. But it's going to be a tight one for sure.
Well, and you got to also throw in there, right, Newaygo kind of overnight because of the hiring of a new coach, a very historic coach that they have there. They got some talent there too. Long, I think it's Josiah Long. He's a heck of a baseball player, but he's a pretty dangerous football player. And I'm actually really looking for Lingman out of Central Montcalm. Can he turn it around? He's got a big arm as a quarterback. Last year, he had a real rough time when he ran into Xander Prince and Riley Venix in the secondary against Big Rapids, threw, I think, 5 or 6 interceptions in the game. So with some maturity, can he be a guy that steps up? But, Joe, I agree with you a lot because in the teams that you noted, because they're more of the surefire, right, versus what are we going to get out of Central Montcalm? And you can't – I like the inclusion of Tri-County in what you're saying for the reason of their offensive line. You can't overstate the importance of an offensive line. Big Rapids will agree with you on that. For years, that's what the coaching staff has tried to develop, right? They don't have that many big kids in the school. So they try to fill up that line anyway, anyhow. So for Tri-County to get that line back, that's kind of a big factor for them. They're going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as I think powerful of a run game that Tri-County is going to be able to establish, but you're still going to give some time in the pocket for the quarterback to make some decisions. I think that's going to be kind of a big deal when it comes to some game time decisions.
Now, the season's always kind of a throw and toss up in the air as soon as the season begins, because then you see, unfortunately, injuries happen, other things that are just kind of monkey wrenches in. They kind of throw off some of the players, and also some of those dark horses that come around and out of nowhere just obliterate a team that you thought was going to win. We've seen that in years past. And I think what we're going to do here is this season, I want to get everyone's take on their game of the week and make your picks as far as who's going to be the chosen team as the winner. So, JT, start off with you. Who do you think's your pick of the week to take this one home?
Well, I'm actually going to go with Big Rapids over Pawpaw. I mean, yes, I'm biased with it, but so the strategic reason that Coach Seltzer picked Pawpaw, they run a very similar offense to Reed City. So he wants his defense getting a look at that. The defense in early camp, they're feeling good. They're looking strong. And then you have a new quarterback taking over for Will Strickler. Will is now a slot receiver out at Alma College. Actually got in a couple plays last week at a scrimmage. But Riley Venix, their slot receiver from last year, is taking over at quarterback. He was the backup last year. So he's a southpaw. He's quick. He's one of the faster kids in the school. His decision-making is really the only thing you got to question, and that's mainly because he just hasn't had enough reps. So as the season goes on, he's going to for sure get stronger and stronger. He's a very smart, athletic kid. But I just have a feeling that Big Rapids is going to come out against Pawpaw. Riley's going to click right away. He's got good rapport with all of his teammates, and that defense is going to play well. So I'm going to take Big Rapids over Pawpaw at Pawpaw Friday night, and I'll be calling it solo.
Putting the name on the line there. Brendan, what you got going on? What do you think?
Oh, man, I got an absolute doozy week one. Reed City going to be hosting Kingsley. Kingsley's a really good football team. They're out of the North Michigan Football League. They're tough. They're gritty. It's almost like two of the exact same teams playing against each other in different uniforms. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a lot on the ground. It's going to be really gritty offensively, defensively. The trenches, I think it's just going to win this game. But I think Reed City especially, they're a really raw team this year. They lost a lot of experienced players into the college level for even football and other sports as well. They lost a lot, especially on that offensive side when it comes to skill players. But this is one of the most potentially raw improved teams that we could see from years past. This has kind of been the year, like Joe mentioned earlier, the CSAA kind of feels like all that top and bottom range is starting to get scrunched together. We could see a lot of teams with similar records by week 5, week 6 into the season. It's going to make a fun stretch. But the way Reed City has really been doing in camp, they've been really doing a great job of making sure the young guys are getting in with the older guys, getting the experience even more than they have done in years past. And I think that's really going to help them, especially. I think Kingsley's going to throw a lot of wrenches at them, especially up front, defensive line. They're going to probably throw a lot of different things to try to stop that run. But Reed City, if they can get out in space with that speed and that talent they have, especially if they can keep everybody lined up in the secondary and not let any big plays, I think they should be able to win this game here coming up. And I mean, I can be biased as well. I mean, I think they can run it all the way. This team has enough potential to do that as long as they can make sure that they avoid those trap games like at Big Rapids and especially Tri-County as a team. They did it one year. They can try to do it again. So we'll have to wait and see. They're going to be two pivotal matchups to start the season.
Yeah, and how much do you think playing at Reed City affects this Kingsley game? Because I might be biased. I actually have Kingsley pulling that one out, but it's a very low-scoring game. How much do you think that home Coyote crowd is going to affect it?
I think it's going to be huge, especially with the young guys. And I think especially like if I'm anticipating a 20-20 type of football game, it's not going to be necessarily as high of scoring. Although Reed City last year one of their highest offensive outputs in a season in over 5 years. So you can see that necessarily going in. But with these two teams, the hard-nosed, really that smash mouth football we call it in Madden terms, is definitely going to be what you're going to see on that field. So I think when it comes to the hometown crowd, I think that there could be a very, very good comfort with a lot of those young guys, especially in their first varsity game. And I think it can be as maybe a little bit more of an advantage as you think here, JT, because I think there could be some trouble with Big Rapids going all the way down to Paw Paw there coming up here in week 1. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I could be 0-2 on the first 2 picks. I don't know. But
Well, there's big money riding on this one, so yeah, about 5,000 Monopoly dollars. Joe, what do you got going on? What's your pick?
Being a Tri-County guy myself, I'm really looking forward to this week 1 game. They're kicking it off at home against Comstock Park. It's a team who's been pretty historically above average. They didn't make the playoffs last year, but they made it the 2 years prior, excuse me. This is going to be a game that I think is going to be a pretty defining moment for how the season is going to go. I don't want to put all the pressure on game 1, but with such a good season last year, you can only kind of assume as somebody who's going to be watching that game. I was talking to Butler, and he said they've got a few sophomores coming up that are excited to hit the field. Their camp went really well. Practices have been going really, really solid. This is a team who he said the mantra is just they're going to be flying to the football. It's going to be physical from the get-go, and that's been kind of the mantra that's been going on for quite a while. It's kind of been the reason why the program has changed over these past few years. But this team, especially going up against Comstock Park, who's going to be traveling to Tri-County, it's a great atmosphere at Goodham Parker Field, and I think Tri-County is going to take away the win. I don't think it's going to be as high of a scoring game as we've seen from last year, but it's going to be a W regardless.
Love it. All right, so we're going to move on to, and I think I want to just go with this as a no explanation. Just tell me what your answer is. I want to know your dark horse for the week. Who's going to be your Hail Mary, if you will? That's what we're going to throw a Hail Mary that the person or the team that you think might pull one out that is not necessarily favored. Who you got, JT?
I think Pelong and the Warriors are going to win one down at Olivet. They're going to come out. Tyler Gear, man, that kid, he's small, but he's tenacious. I think they're going to pull one out week 1. The Chip Hills program has really struggled the last couple of years. Pelong is only 7-11 in his career so far as head coach, but he's been doing all the right things over the years. And I just think that they're going to hit the ground running this year. That's Warriors, baby. Let's go.
All right, we got Chip Hills. Brandon, who you got?
Oh man, it's such a great pick. As one that covered Chip Hills last year, that team is going to be dangerous this year. I like that pick, JT. I'm going to go with maybe necessarily a safer conservative Hail Mary, so maybe more of a trip side Hail Mary, not just a straight up 1v5 Hail Mary. But I'm gonna go with Ralph Munger and co. I think the Lions are gonna upset Kent City week 1. I think they're gonna make a statement right out of the gate. Nuego's been lacking experience a little bit in the coaching game. They had a lot of raw talent, necessarily how to use it. And I think with Munger there, he set the tone week 1 in practice, summer workouts, conditioning, everything. They're ready to go right away. Like they never stopped back in the couple years that they were going playoff appearances. So I think that they have a really good chance to go there, beat Kent City. While Kent City's a team that's had winning records the last couple of years, they're definitely looking at the team that, especially in consideration of being a great team both at home and on the road, to be able to really have that week 1 success continue from years. I think Nuego will spoil it, and I think they're going to throw them a wrench there in week 1. I think they beat them in a nail biter.
Yeah, I like that pick. I agree with that. I think Nuego is going to be a team to watch. I'm with you.
Joe, who you picking?
It's tough because Brandon kind of took mine, but I don't want to go copycat on him. I'm going to think that Grant is going to be taking on Kellogg'sville for week 1. Grant's going to be able to take away the win. It's two teams who had a very similar season like last season. I think they both finished 1-8, but Grant's going to be able to start the season off strong against Kellogg'sville. They got a pretty solid team, especially just for who they're able to field just in a different geographical location. But I think Grant's going to be able to take the win and set themselves up real nice for Chip the following week.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with the Mud Dogs and Bobby Boucher. It's always a solid pick there. No, but for real, what we're gonna do is moving forward, you can go on our social medias and make your picks along with us, and then I will be the voice for you of who all of our listeners are and who they pick for the week. And that's kind of how we're going to go with that. Let's go with kind of some bonus points here for the end of the season. Who's your prediction on who's going to win the conference? And go a step further and say win-loss record too. Who you got, JT?
So I got Big Rapids. I think they're going to break the streak. Yeah, look at Brandon's face. They're going to break the streak, man. It's been a long time, and all good things have to come to an end. This is a great year for Big Rapids to make this push, and with their weaker schedule, they're playing. They can get through week 1 here. They're playing Newaygo at home. They play Reed City at home. So 2 of their tougher conference opponents are at home. They play Tri-County at home. So they do have as Brandon pointed out, they have an easier schedule to do it. They have a lot of returners coming to this team. Yes, they lost some talent. Yes, they lost a guy like Will Strickler, but I feel very confident that Riley Venix is going to be able to pick it up. So I think Big Rapids, they could win this whole thing out and take the conference, break the streak. Brandon, sorry, cry about it.
What do you think their win-loss record is going to be?
I think they're flawless. I think they're 9-0.
You're going 9-0, man. You're putting it all on the line.
Yeah, that's a homer if I've ever seen one. Homer if I've ever seen one.
Someone trying to get in good at the athletic director.
Yeah, I got you.
I was gonna say you might be getting a call from the athletic director if you don't. So.
Brendan, who you got? Who's winning the conference this year? I think I have a feeling I know who you're trying to say.
So this first last perspective came from a Bears fan, so that's number 1. Number 2,
Super Bowl in 3 years, baby.
Yeah,
3 years.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, why wouldn't I pick the Coyotes? I mean, they've been a CSA winning machine. Yeah, they did have one blip year in COVID where they gave it to Central Montcalm. It was a Christmas gift, but they're back on track. I can see them running the table this year. I could see potentially a couple trap games. Big Rapids, I will admit, is one of them. Potentially at Newaygo, maybe down the road if that team starts to catch fire, could be an interesting one. But I think overall, I see this team as probably obviously a 9-0 ceiling. I think potentially you could see maybe a 7-2 floor. Either way, I think that they can still prove their CSA powerhouse abilities, and I think they can run through another conference crown and make another postseason run, as I would hope to, as I get to call more football that way. So why wouldn't I want to root for that?
What you got as far as a win-loss record?
For conference play or overall?
Whatever one you want to go with.
Okay. I think they roll at 6-0 conference. I would say right now, I'm going to say 9-0, but I could see potentially 8-1 with that week 9 game, because I think there's more on the line there from that other team than I think that some might be anticipating.
All right.
Do you think that's a tougher game, or do you think that so you think Cadillac's a tougher game than Kingsley?
Yes, I would agree.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, who you picking? Who's got the conference this year?
I made fun of JT for being a homer, but I think I'm going to have to go with my Vikings. The reason being is the reason being is I like how the schedule is set up. There's not really a lot of spots in the schedule where it's a lot of bad teams in a row or a lot of good teams in a row where you might get in a slump or you might kind of get in a spot where you get too complacent. You got Reed City week 2, you got Newaygo coming week 4, and then you also got Big Rapids and Belding to close out, I think, week 7 and week 9. So Belding's going to be a redemption tour for them. Like Brandon, to not kind of copy off Brandon, but I think this is going to be probably a 6-3 floor. I would say probably 8-1 ceiling. But I think in conference play, you might see a little bit of a situation where it's going to kind of be I forget the word. It's like a transitive property type thing, where like somebody beats the next person and it's going to keep on kind of copying over. I don't know if they're going to be able to kind of sweep Reed City and Big Rapids, but I think they'll be able to take one or the two, and it's kind of might be on the carryover for them as well. But Tri-County, I think, is going to probably go 5-1 in conference, and it's kind of going to spiral the conference a little bit out of control after that.
Love it. I'm going with Reed City just because they've been solid year after year after year. Sorry, got to go with them. I don't think they're going to go flawless. I think they might lose. I'm going to go 7-2. I'm going to play it conservative just in case, because there's always that dark horse that comes out of nowhere and surprises the heck out of people. This year, if you're talking NFL, you're talking Lions going to upset my Chiefs. It's going to happen. You watch week 1, first game of the season, good times. But it's one of those situations that I think there will be a couple teams that give them a run for their money, and it should be interesting to see what happens with them and the Coyotes this year. I got high hopes for Big Rapids. However, again, safety wise, just going up with the other with
It's
City.
In the world of sports betting, though, I'll just tell you, this is a great year to fade the Coyotes. I'm just saying they've been riding so high for so long. They had a lot of talent left. I mean, Jackson, Hughes, a lot of these guys, Allen. I mean, these guys are some of the best athletes in the area. Period. And they lost a lot of talent, right? So if there's a year for Big Rapids to break the streak, I don't know, Brandon, this might be a pretty good year for it.
Be a good one. I'd like to see that, honestly. It'd be kind of a nice welcome change. So so that's what we have to look forward to this year. First kickoff starts at like 7:00 is when everybody kicks off on Friday. How can they listen to each broadcast? Tell them what the rundown is.
So Big Rapids will be on Big Country 100.9. You can also listen on the WWBR app as well as at WWBR.com. We'll go pregame at 6:45 Friday evening, kickoff at 7.
How about the Coyotes, Brendan?
Coyotes 102.3 FM, WYBR app, WYBR.com. 6:45 pregame start each and every Friday, live on the site, on air, and on the app.
Very cool. And as far as the broadcasts go, give us a little preview. What's in store for everyone?
Ooh,
the broadcast.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Let's see. You're gonna see an analytical side that I think the program has been missing for a while. You'll see more statistics. You'll see more in-game as far as analysis goes. And it's my team. So if you want to get on a homer train and if you want to really get back on the in Coyote country, you're gonna find the right guy to do it. So if you want to get and see a championship team and you want to hear about it, you're gonna get it, guaranteed.
You'll be the Hawk Harrelson of high school football.
That's right.
Just homer.
All the way.
I love it.
I mean, with that said, I don't try to be middle of the road myself, right? It's a Big Rapids broadcast. I like to dive into the stats. I get help from Joe Bowman on some of the stats. It's a lot of trends, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I just try to involve as many of the kids as possible into the broadcast. So a lot of these guys I know from coaching. I know them personally. I know their families. So I'll be able to talk a little bit about both how they are on and off the field. So that's try to involve as much of that stuff as possible. I might even bring on a little brother or two or something like that. So we'll have to see how it goes. But Coach Jason Kostecki is also going to be joining me for some of the home games. He's one of the basketball coaches, and then he was my JV baseball coach as well. So he knows a lot of the kids too. So it should be interesting.
Good times. So if they want to follow us on socials, where do they do it?
So for Big Country, Facebook, you can go just search Big Country, Big Rapids, WWBR. It'll pop up on Instagram, Big Country 1009 WWBR, and then on Twitter or X, just Big Country 1009. Pretty much if you just search Big Country 1009, you'll find it. It'll be there.
Brendan, how about you as far as Coyote Country goes?
Yeah, for Coyote Country, Y102, 1023 WYBR Big Rapids on Facebook, Y102 WBR, excuse me, there for Instagram, and on X/Twitter/ whatever that is called. You can go and find them over there as well in Big Rapids Y102.
Love it. And you can always follow just all of our stuff because we always have things going on and lots of fun stuff on BigRapidsDailyNews.com. There's all of your local news and happenings in the area. So you can check that one out too. Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting season. Thanks, guys, for hanging out and giving us the rundown with us. And we'll see next week if any of us were right and see if maybe we want to change some predictions or not. So that's going to do it for us for week 1 of the Rundown for the Big Rapids Media Network Sports Show.